Good morning, Trainiacs. Check this out. This here is the Tacx Flow Smart Trainer. This is the least expensive but best smart trainer on the market, as indicated by a lot of the leading smart trainer blogs out there in the world. Today I'm going to give you my first impressions of it and a bit of a review on if it is something that if you're setting up your indoor pain cave for the first time or joining us on like today's weekly open to everyone in the world Zwift ride and you want to save some money but still get a good trainer, we're going to let you know if this is a decent option for you. I'm intrigued. I've heard good things. Okay, so historically, what I've used for my trainer setup has always been the tippy top of the line. I've used the Wahoo Kicker, the top of the line trainer from Wahoo. I've used the Ceres / Hammer H2, H3, and they've been good, but to invest, like what I've got here, I think is $1,200 US, and that's $600 US, $1,800 in your trainer setup, that's just not practical for a lot of people. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this bike off this super high-end setup, and we're going to set it up with the new Tacx Flow Smart. And we are going to later today actually do a Zwift ride that I lead every single week, and that's going to be a really good indication of what the road feel is like for this. How does it actually interact with Zwift? Does it feel accurate? Does it respond really quickly? Does it hold your power? Because we're going to do a very specific high power kind of workout. It's going to give us a good indication of if this is a decent value for your money. Okay, so basically set up, there is just a little bit of setup time. You have to end up putting the flywheel, the thing that actually puts tension on the wheel, onto the frame of the trainer itself. Whole thing start to finish, unpacking, opening things up, 15 minutes. And the setup is 2 bolts. They give you the bolts, they give you the Allen key to turn it in, and it takes a couple of seconds. The one thing that I wasn't a big fan of is the plug here. It basically just gets us like right barely to the front of the wheel of the trainer. So if you are off the wall a little bit like I am, you're gonna need either a power bar or an extension cord to actually get the power to the cord, because the cord is only basically as long as the bike. Okay, so now that we are theoretically set up, let's see how easy it is to pair to Zwift. All right, so we'll bring up Zwift, and on the home screen, one click in. Now we should be looking for this speed sensor, that's the trainer. Tire size, that's right. Searching. Not promising so far. So we'll try out here in power source. There, that's where it is. Okay, Tacx Flow showed up right away. Paired. Now, here's the thing. Is it controllable is the question. Oh, that was quick. There we go, controllable. And I'll pair heart rate sensor. Let's see if cadence can be done here. Yeah, cadence. Okay, and I'll pair the heart rate sensor later. So by all accounts, we are ready to go. I am going to go get into my bib shorts and we will do this group ride. And I'll explain to you why I chose this as the #1 budget-friendly trainer out there for people that want to go on Zwift and have the workout controlled for them. Okay, so I've been riding on some hilly terrain in Zwift for about 15 minutes or so, just sort of testing out the feeling of it. Now I'll get to this in a little while when I can sit down, but at first for an entry-level trainer, it's okay. It's certainly not what the high-end trainers are like. But the reason that I chose this is because if you go to DC Rainmaker's website and you look at the best trainers per category, so beginner and entry-level cost, mid-range and high-end, this is basically put out there as the trainer for the entry-level market. And really, he says that basically they've got the market cornered. Now, coming in at that $300-400 price point, depending on your currency, this is right in line with where a lot of trainers used to be. And those trainers certainly didn't talk with Zwift or any of your training apps. So to be able to get a trainer that is a smart trainer that you can do executed workouts, you can do group rides for that price point, regardless of if it is as good as that high-end market or not, you're still getting a pretty good value. I'll get back to you after this entire workout because I'm not going to be able to talk during it, and it's going to smart. We'll see how it goes. All right, 1 minute till showtime. Right, ride is over. I have wrapped my head around how I feel about that first ride, and I've done a bunch of research with some of the people that really dive into the specifics of this trainer versus that trainer. Is it accurate? Is it comparable as far as value goes? Now, spoiler alert. What you're getting is a good $370 trainer. I would say a great $370 trainer, but you're not getting a $1,200 trainer. There's a reason that those $1,200 trainers are $1,200. Where I slot this trainer in is kind of like your first triathlon bike or your first road bike that you're slapping on a pair of clip-on bars to. Is this going to get you doing Zwift rides, Zwift workouts, erg mode kind of workouts where the trainer is controlling it for you? Yeah, it's going to get you that for just $370. Is it as good as the $600-700 trainers? No. Or the $1,200 trainers? Certainly not. But does that mean that this is a bad trainer? No. So the stated stats from Tacx on this is that it can go up to 800 watts. That's fairly low as far as trainers go. The $600 to $800 trainers go to around 12 to 1400 watts. The $1,200 trainers go upwards of 2000 or more watts. Are most people who are buying this going to use that kind of wattage? No, I rarely get over 800 watts. But there's a caveat to that. Goes up to a max 6-degree incline. That is a little bit of an issue if you go and start doing Everest climbs on Zwift that go up to the 13, 14, 15 mark. It's 20 pounds, so as you can see, even with my little chicken arms, I was able to carry it around easily. It's also really compact, like this here is a really big difference from what you'd see with the more $1,200 expensive trainers that are 50 pounds. It's got a 5% accuracy. Most of the more expensive trainers are in the 1 to 2% kind of range, and I'd probably agree that this is not as accurate as that. It's certainly not. So let's get into my experience. Now, first off, the accuracy. What I find with these more lower end trainers, the accessible bike trainers that are in that $300 to $600 range, is they don't have end of range. If you're doing really low power, like 90 watts, it's not really going to be as accurate. In my experience, when we were doing that workout and it was supposed to be 90 watts just to start warming up, it was more like 110, 112 watts. It took to get to 110 watts before the power really synced up. At the high end, same sort of thing. When we were doing the 300 watt efforts, it wanted to be more at around 285, 290. I could get it up to that, but it really wasn't very smooth at that point. And erg trainer, where the trainer does the power for you as long as you keep pedaling, it's supposed to be bang on. So you've got to work a little bit to get at that exact right power. Same sort of thing with the cadence. The cadence, I would actually say, is really quite close. There was never a time that I saw the cadence wildly off from what I was doing, but I have heard reviews online that the cadence was just a mess. I didn't experience that, so, call it okay. But again, the fact that you can get a $370 trainer that has cadence reading on Zwift, that's really rare. Normally that takes more high-end trainers or an additional attachment like a cadence sensor to do that. So the fact that it was close for me, I'm impressed with alone. Where I think the accuracy is going to go off is when I started doing just some surges and sprints and looking at reviews online with some actual data and testing. What they would find is that the higher up in power you go, as you get close to that 800 watts kind of range, the further off it is. So as an average, it's still within 5%, but at the extremes, it gets to be a little bit off. Again, my take on it is, as somebody who's buying this trainer, you're not going to be going up to that anyway. In addition to that, at those super high-end ranges, when you're doing 800 watts or 700 watts, really the training effect is pretty similar. You're really just going hard, and as long as you're going at that like super maximal effort, as long as you're not somebody that should be doing 1200 watts and you're down at 700, if it's 800 down to 700, it should still give you the same sort of training stimulus. As far as the experience goes on Zwift, in simulation mode, where you're just riding around and you're letting the trainer react to what's going on the road, it was okay. It's a lot more hitchy than the $1,200 trainers, which are like, boom, instantly. You go onto a hill and you're instantly feeling that hill. And the experience of it is very much like going onto a hill, where there's a little bit of graduated increase and then it's kind of a gradual taper off as you crest the hill and go down. This is a lot more hitchy. It's kind of a lot more sudden. It's on, off, more like that. So that then relates to the road feel. This flywheel here, I believe, is just 7 pounds. The flywheel on more high-end trainers is usually somewhere around 20 pounds. Road feel is kind of that feeling of, as you start to go up, getting that inertia going, that momentum going, and then as you stop pedaling, having the cruise go for you. Now, because this is a magnetic trainer and this flywheel here is really quite small in comparison to most other flywheels, you're not going to get that same road feel. It's a magnetic trainer. You don't get road feel on magnetic trainers. You get more that hitchy kind of that sort of feel. But I would say that as far as the magnetic trainers that I've tried go, this is the best magnetic trainer I've tried, but it's still a magnetic trainer. Between simulation mode and erg mode, simulation mode being just riding around Zwift, erg mode being a set workout where you're trying to hit certain things, I would actually say erg mode was more similar to what I would expect from a high-end trainer. The changes were very instant, probably within a second or two, which is about what you'd expect on a high-end trainer. And in that erg mode, you're not expecting that smooth, gradual progression of going over roads and hills and slight inclines and declines. So I would say that this felt better. Finally, as far as the sound goes, again, as far as magnetic trainers go, it's pretty good. The contact point between the wheel and the trainer, it doesn't slip, whereas on a lot of magnetic trainers, you get a lot of like that little bit of slippage in the wheel. Didn't have it in this, so it's not as silent as the $1,200 trainers out there, but it's a lot more quiet than the other magnetic trainers that I've tried. So is this a good trainer? Yes, I would highly recommend this for anyone who's looking for something in that inexpensive $300 to $400 range. If literally all you're looking at doing is just riding inside, get something off of Craigslist or Kijiji for like $80 to $150. But if you want to be on the very budget conscious side of things and still get on Zwift and still do some structured workouts, this is probably the best trainer out there for you. What do you give up? A little bit of refinement from those more expensive trainers. Sometimes the speed is going to be weird and it'll surge and kind of slow down before it smooths out. Sometimes the feeling of the road is going to be a little bit janky. Sometimes those end of range efforts of the low cadence, of the high cadence, of the low speed, of the high speed, of the low power, of the high power, it's going to not be exactly accurate. But for the person that's buying this, does that matter? I would probably argue no, it doesn't, and that this is going to be perfectly fine to suit your needs. Just don't expect it to be the trainer that you can use if you're going to do Zwift races, if you're going to be using this for years, like do all of your riding inside. At that point, I would probably recommend going into that $600 to $800 trainer budget range, which is going to give you a very, very good trainer that is going to last you a long time, and it's basically going to be future proofed. Whereas this, you're probably going to want to move on from at some point. But until that point, you're going to have a pretty decent ride. Now, I do have a couple more Tacx trainers on the way that I'm going to be reviewing, and if you want to see those reviews of the mid-range, the high end of Tacx trainers, make sure you hit the subscribe button below so that you don't miss those videos. Later, Trainiac.